welcome to the program. This is the Eco-Modernist Channel Live. I'm Carl Pauls. I'm here with Gabe Ignetti and our special guest. Thomas E. Rehm, PhD, is a distinguished chemical engineer. He's made significant contributions to the field of climate solutions and process safety. He currently serves as the president of GSOP Climate Collaboration Incorporated. Additionally, he has co-founded Global Solutions and Outreach Programs in 2022. His leadership extends to his position as past chair of the South Texas section of the American Institute of Chemical Engineers. Dr. Rehm's career is marked by his dedication to climate solutions. Since 2020, he has been a climate solutions liaison for the Engineering, Science, and Technology Council of Houston. His most notable achievement has been his work on global warming initiatives since 2017. Welcome to the program, Tom.
Thank you, Carl. So I appreciate you giving me time today, and I'll do my best to explain our proposal. Is simple, and if I contrast it with the IPCC, I can explain it simply in terms that everyone will understand. Humanity is making little or no progress in resolving global warming. Why is that happening? Well, it's happening because humanity has no plan to resolve global warming. There's a lot of activity, but there's no plan. Most of your audience may know Dr. James Hansen. He's out at Columbia University. On December 9th, he said in a statement to the International Court of Justice, he said, nations of the world meet at annual COP meetings, which is conferences of the parties, where they promise to reduce emissions to net zero at some distant date, which is almost a meaningless pledge. There is no plan to actually stabilize climate. Real-world emissions remain at a level driving climate inexorably toward conditions out of humanity's control. That's our position. We agree with Dr. Hansen. There is no plan to actually stabilize climate. So I'll start by contrasting our proposal with the work of the IPCC. The IPCC has three working groups. Working Group 1 examines the physical science of climate change. Working Group 2 assesses the vulnerability of socioeconomic and natural systems to climate change. Those are the consequences of global warming. Working Group 3 focuses on climate change mitigation, assessing methods for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and removing greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. The IPCC provides a lot of information to members of the United Nations and their representatives who attend the annual COP meetings, the Conference of Parties. Parties are the members of the United Nations. It's at the annual COP meetings where countries, quote unquote, collaborate in person and hopefully make decisions which will resolve global warming. In the GSOP initiative, we do not think that international collaboration has been very effective, which is one reason we started taking a collaboration survey in March of last year. And sometime during this podcast, I'll talk about part one of a paper just published. But in that paper, we put the results of the survey. Granted, only 135 took the survey. We're not professionals on taking surveys, but we asked them what they thought about current collaboration. Only 15% think that collaboration is on a good track. 70% think that collaboration is poor, and the other 15% think collaboration is abysmal. We don't say that the thousands of contributors who produce the work of the three IPCC working groups is poor, and we don't say that the tens of thousands who attend the annual COP meetings are not doing the best they can. What we say is we think that those working in the IPCC and those who attend COP meetings, they're well intentioned, they're doing the best they can, but the progress is poor. And I quoted Dr. James Hansen, he would agree with that. And an important bit that he said is there is no plan to actually stabilize climate. We would need two key groups of people to receive the best advice possible on climate solutions. Who are those groups of people? One group are those that authorize very large capital investments. Got to have capital for a lot of these solutions, large amounts of it. The other group are those who propose and pass government policies to support climate solutions. So those groups are expert in finance and in policy. They don't have the technical experience to understand the challenges, the technical challenges of solutions, or the long-term economic viability of solutions. They have to depend on others. We think that many of them are well-intentioned, but they're human beings, they have biases. One bias is corporate vested interest. If I invest many millions of dollars in a climate solution, you better believe I'm going to promote that solution. Another bias is career vested interest. If I devote my career to development of a climate solution, you better believe I'm going to promote that solution. Another bias is public passion, primarily associated with advocating for solutions. If I devote my life to promoting a course of action to resolve global warming and mitigating climate change, you better believe I'll promote that solution. On their own, each of these biases are understandable. On their own, they're admirable as they work to moving climate solutions forward. The question has to be asked, though, will business as usual guide us to best resolve global warming for my grandchildren's grandchildren? I don't think so. And there's one more bias, political bias. Giving our elected officials credit for wanting to resolve global warming, which might not always be the case, they have to be reelected to continue to work on resolving global warming. And it's a pretty frequent cycle. Therefore, they have to listen to their constituents. Focusing just on policy decisions on climate solutions, who are their constituents? They are those with corporate vested interest, career vested interest, and public passions. How do we get out of the mess we're in? The way we get out of this mess is we use a method that's going to mitigate those biases and maximize international collaboration in doing so. That's our proposal. Carl, you asked me about our army that we're putting together. Well, we haven't put it together yet. We are at the present time, we're 5 retired people. One of the 5 is still working. He's in his mid-60s. We're hopeful that we can somehow reach younger generations that will join us, that will see the merits of our proposal. But that international army, we're talking about 2,800 full-time and 22,000 part-time engineers, economists, social experts, policy experts, subject matter experts of all type, working for 3 years and all being paid the equivalent of the average salary that a chemical engineer with 20 years of experience would be paid. So we're talking a lot of people because we're talking about the entire planet and we want all countries involved. Now, GSOP is Global Solutions and Outreach Programs. 2 parts to it. The Global Solutions Program, which is the analyses of all the solutions for your country or for your region. It's going to be different from one country to another, from one region to another. We propose something different, and the Global Solutions and Outreach programs will have two parts: the Global Solutions program and Dr. Hutchinson, who I'll get into a little more his expertise. Will mentor that, and I'm going to mentor the outreach program, and there'll be linkages between the two. Dr. Hutchinson and I have committed to doing this for however long it takes at no compensation. Project number one is going to identify, evaluate, and integrate all available options to halt CO2 release and come up with action plans. They may be doable with the goal of having zero net CO2 release by 2050. Personally, I'm not sure that that's even possible. Another set of action plans by 2075 and another by 2100. Project two is going to look at the available options to adjust the Earth's energy balance to halt further warming. As your audience probably knows, there's inertia built into our planet. If we stopped emissions right away, the planet would continue to warm for many decades. There are various problems that Project Two will address. That's just one of them: how to stabilize the Earth's energy balance and to halt further warming, and to deal with other things like ocean acidification and methane release. And then Project Three is going to look at the technologies that may be puzzle pieces on our coffee table that are not proven. I have several colleagues, mostly retired, that have a lot of experience in industry and including nuclear industry. And one of them convinced me at one point that we need to put our money into the most viable technologies that have the potential to do so. He worked at a national lab for many years. He's retired now. And he said, well, the government will give money to almost every potential solution to solve a problem when really they ought to be funding the two or three that have the most merit. So anyway, our Project 3 is going to focus on that. Let me just talk a little bit about IPCC, Working Group 3. Working Group 3 corresponds close to what we're proposing. Working Group 3 has a focus in the IPCC of technically evaluating climate solutions. In November 2023, they produced the IPCC sixth assessment report. I think it goes by AR6, and produced in March of 2023. The World Resources Institute did a report in November of 2023 about it, and 2,000 to 3,000 pages long, a bit too long for most people to digest. So they prepare a summary for policymakers, which runs 30 to 50 pages. There isn't any plan in there that any country or region can actually use to figure out what combinations of solutions that are best for their country or region. Many, many scenarios. It takes then someone to dig deep into the various scenarios to figure out what solutions ought to be used within a country or region. Our proposal is that humanity should actually produce an action plan, let's say the 2075 action plan for Brazil, for Australia, South America, or Europe. Actual action plans as guides to policymakers and people with large amounts of capital. So that is our proposal. Now you say, all those biases, aren't they going to affect all the work you're doing? That's a valid question. This is where Dr. Hutchinson's experience comes in. So Dr. Hutchinson is another chemical engineer. He organized a project and 270 professionals from the Department of Energy and 7 national laboratories. So he led that project from 1990 to 1993. And he figured, well, we got all these laboratories. He and 2 colleagues decided in 2002 to write a paper to solve complex problems. and they called it the wicked problem approach. So this was, he wrote that, they wrote that paper in 2002. This wicked problem approach would probably be useful in resolving global warming. So he wrote a book that came out in 2019. And it was in that book that he laid out his proposal, which I explained to you today. And so using the wicked problem approach, which is assigning many teams to focused topics and having integration teams manage any intersecting issues that cross topics. That is the essence of the wicked problem approach, and that is our proposal. Part one of a paper that Dr. Hutchinson and I produced. So our proposal has not changed much from him putting that book together. Now, I didn't meet him until 2019. With my work in the AICHE, we decided that Dick should be the expert on mentoring the analyses of potential climate solutions, which is, we call that the Global Solutions Program, and I should mentor the work on outreach. This literature review section of the paper goes into what people have thought about over the years since 1973 on wicked problems. Some problems are just so difficult to handle that you can't really solve them. All you can do is come up with the best way forward. And so that's what a wicked problem is. It cannot really be solved, but you can make your best attempt at solving it. Then in 2012, Levin and his colleagues identified climate change as a super wicked problem. They had added 4 characteristics to super wicked problems. Time is running out. Those who cause the problem also seek to provide its solution. We do have these other organizations that are trying to do something about it. And I review 4 of them in the paper, the annual COP meetings, Project Drawdown, Deep Decarbonization Pathways projects, and the International Energy Agency came out with a roadmap in 2021, I believe. So I go in detail on why these are not making any progress and why they're not going to. And the reason they're not going to is because of the reasons I've told you. We have so much bias that we cannot tear ourselves away from the influences of those biases. Part one of the paper, I go into intersecting issues framed by planetary limits. So I didn't never heard of Eco-Modernist Society before, and I was quite pleased that the organization does support nuclear energy, because I believe that we're not going to resolve global warming unless we have a vast increase in nuclear energy. But there are mineral limits that have to be considered in any analyses. I look at the minerals that are now being used. I wrote this part of the paper. You know, there's a lot of minerals that are now needed. Are they going to? Does the planet have enough of them to go out 200 years? I think we have to go out at least 200 years. I don't give nuclear a pass. Now, there's this reference here cites that uranium, we have about 90 years of reserves if it's based on 3 times the current spot price. Okay, I'm not a nuclear energy expert, but I do have colleagues who are experts in advanced nuclear and where you reprocess spent fuel and so on, and so that nuclear, if we don't use the advanced nuclear, we're limited also. We're not going to be able to go out 200 years. Maybe some of you may have heard of a limit on capital. In 2023, over Zoom, I saw this presentation by a professor at Georgetown University. He's a finance guy, and this is the first time I ever heard this, that they there's going to come a time when we're going to have a financial tipping point beyond which there will not be enough capital to resolve global warming. This could happen within 20 or 30 years. Now that's real scary. Invited to join a basic chemicals technical working group for the Climate Bonds Initiative in early 2021 that is attempting to develop criteria for projects to be awarded bonds based on how effective the project is in reducing emissions. So far, they have issued 3.5 trillion US dollars in green bonds. They are not working from any sort of a quote unquote plan, such as Dr. Hansen suggested and such as we propose. We're running into several tipping points. If we continue to just assume that business as usual is going to solve the problem, we're going to have to face reality at some point. We have to take a more regimented approach to it. Anybody has any
Oh
questions?
boy, because there is a lot here. If I'm going to summarize, it is we need to actually work for solutions, and the IPCC hasn't even recommended strategies to solve climate change since 2018 with the special report on 1.5. That was the last time we got a glimpse of the strategies that were possible. And so, of course, I love to talk about that because every single one of those successful strategies included a massive increase in nuclear energy, and I think that's a big missing part of the puzzle. And I really appreciate that your wicked problem approach is open to all solutions. What I want to know is in those alternative pathways, alternative strategies that you went over, the different NGO proposals, what kind of bias did you suspect in those proposals?
Well, okay. So, nuclear energy is limited in all of them, really. I didn't see any scenarios in which nuclear was very dominant. Uh, and I'd have to go back and look at them again, but it seems like 20% contribution, maybe a little bit more, is sort of maximum. Now, that may be realistic because it takes a lot of capital. And in fact, if we don't go in with reprocessing, to achieve more than that may be impossible. And a lot of people don't like reprocessing because proliferation concerns. So I don't know exactly the considerations in all of those studies, but yeah, nuclear is limited quite a bit. There's a lot of hope that renewables are going to save the day. I think that I saw somewhere in maybe some of our correspondence an interest in geothermal.
Yeah. Is geothermal sort of a necessary part of that solution?
Well, it's interesting that I'm not an expert, but I can tell you that I was invited to a geothermal conference over Zoom late 2020. The conference looked at a lot of the technical challenges associated with geothermal, and there are technical challenges, but there was hope at that time that they could be overcome. And of course, the economic viability of doing something with geothermal is always there. It's with any solution, the economic viability is there. Concerns are there. One advantage of geothermal is that a big technical requirement is drilling. And in the oil and gas, we have a lot of experts in drilling. And so that's a big plus in my mind. Now I don't think that geothermal is in favor in a lot of these four global studies that I reviewed. I didn't see a lot of support for it, although it is mentioned. But when you have high temperature strata just below our feet, it's got to be a serious consideration. as I say, about 5 years ago, a conference that I attended, they outlined a lot of challenges, but we have people expert in drilling. So
Yeah. And and I saw green bonds list mentioned, and I knew
yes,
that as late as 2018, 2019, nuclear was excluded from different green bond programs like HSBC, and we're only recently starting to qualify nuclear in like IMF and the European investments, the European EU investments. Only very recently are we starting to qualify nuclear for those investments. So it is disappointing that we've spent so much time and money on everything else. We've excluded nuclear, and we're going to do it. But as you say, 20%, 20 to 30% in my mind may be realistic in order to move as quickly as possible with all possible solutions. I wouldn't disagree with you. Yeah.
well, one of my concerns with nuclear is that both China and Russia are taking the bull by the horns and moving forward with advanced nuclear, and so that's concerning. We don't want to get too far behind.
Yeah. And that goes to like American exceptionalism. Like America is a great force for, I guess, freedom of capital in the world. And with Russia and China, you have different constraints on capital, whether it be corruption or fealty to the state, and it kind of puts the thumb on the scale in favor of a few individuals. Whereas you might not like the idea of capital controlling our world, but it is at least free.
Part of the complexity of this wicked problem, China and Russia are taking the lead on these advanced nuclear technologies, and if we're going to resolve our global warming problem, the United States and other Western countries are going to have to collaborate with them in some fashion. I don't know how.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how to get involved in your project and what people can do to connect with you on this?
We are a young organization being led by old people. We really need younger people to help us out. We also need a little bit of money to help us just meet the operating expenses of our nonprofit. Last year we did a fundraiser and we raised enough to meet our operating cost, which is about $10,000. So this is a QR code. Donations of any amount will help us. So you take a picture of that, and then anyone who wants to reach out to me, my email address, it's my name, tom@tomrehm.com. That's it. And so I'd be happy to correspond with anyone who thinks that our proposal makes sense. Does anybody have a question?
The formulation around the wicked problem approach, why couldn't that be applied to a machine learning system? It is an algorithm, is that right?
We shouldn't do this without the capabilities of AI.
With the IPCC, it would be like the IPCC would just change their MO.
We do not want to replace the IPCC with our proposal. We don't want to replace anybody. Project Drawdown is wonderful in that they have done a lot of work in assembling a vast library of solutions. We think that we just need to produce these action plans to inform everyone who is on the stage. We're not on the stage yet. We're barely in the theater, but there are people on the stage. We think they need to be better informed. Now, once we get closer to the stage, maybe we and they might think that together we could form a coalition of some sort, because we're not solving the problem now. That's the bottom line.
Well, thanks everyone for your contributions, for listening and watching us with Dr. Tom Rehm. This has been the Eco-Modernist Society of North America's Eco-Modernist Channel Live. You can find us on YouTube, Eco-Modernist Channel. or at EcoModernist1. You can find us on Facebook at the Eco-Modernist Society of North America. You can find us on the web at esna.earth, that's esna.earth. And I rebroadcast this to many of my personal channels, Carl Alex Pauls on Twitter, on x.com, soyaddle.tv or twitch.tv/soyaddle, and on my own LinkedIn at Carl Pauls. And remember, emissions first, peace and justice will follow.
Please subscribe to us on YouTube, Eco-Modern Channel. Also to subscribe to us on Twitter and Facebook, Eco-Modern Society of North America.
And online at https://esna.earth.